The Wellness Hour, an in-depth discussion with today's top physicians and medical leaders. And now, your host, Randy Alvarez.
You're watching The Wellness Hour, the leader in medical news and information. I'm Randy Alvarez. Today's topic is advances in hearing aid technology. With us, we have an expert on the topic, Walter Kelly. Now, before we get into today's topic, tell me a little bit about your center in Las Vegas.
All right. We've been there since 1998. We're on the corner of Decatur and the 95 freeway, so it's easy to get to from anywhere in town. When I came into town, I came from California. Our center, we specialize in hearing testing, hearing aid repair, and building new hearing aids, or harvesting from all the different companies which hearing technology is the very best for you.
Now, we should mention, by the way, in Las Vegas, and we stumbled on to, because we wanted to do a topic about hearing, we stumbled on to probably the busiest guy in Las Vegas.
Thank you.
Are you the only center, I think you told me that, the only center that does repair?
Absolutely, we're the only one.
Really?
We are. The reason we learned to do that was because we don't like it when our patients have to be without.
Okay.
We're taking a big chunk of their life, the way that they communicate with everybody around them, the way that they enjoy their life. And we're saying, well, it'll be back in about 3 weeks.
All right.
It's going to be really quiet in the meantime. Instead of that, what we do is we just fix it right there on site. You can wait a half an hour or so. We'll get you back on the road.
Okay, good. Now, we were talking before we started rolling here and adding up your hours. You've spent about 37,000 hours discussing or learning about hearing aids. Is that right? Or hearing in general, I should say.
I have, one day at a time. It's been 24 years.
Is that right?
Yes, I have. I did my undergraduate at Brigham Young University. I did graduate school at Fresno State.
You were going to be a psychologist, is that right?
A clinical psychologist. And then what I learned was it's a lot easier to take care of one part of their life rather than their whole life.
All right, so you got that hearing aid bug early on. Now, your family also has it.
They do.
Is that right?
They do. I wish I'd had more children now. My oldest son, he's here in San Diego. He runs my La Mesa office and also runs an office in Encinitas.
Okay.
And he's been working with me since he was 16.
Your youngest daughter, she's about to get into the business?
It's a family business, and those who aren't related to us, we adopt. So we treat the people who come through our door like family. We choose them just as well as they choose us.
Is that right?
Absolutely. We like to have a good time while we do it. It's a relationship business. Most places where you go to get hearing help, it's a business. We do that end of it, but we also take care of relationships. We enjoy what we do. We enjoy the people that we do it with.
You know, one of the things that interested me about this topic, and I'm glad that we stumbled onto the person that's probably one of the busiest in San Diego, and that is that it's more than just amplifying sound.
Absolutely.
Which was my impression. Okay.
Well, that's how it used to be. 10 years ago, what we had were hearing aids that made things louder. And if it happened to be that you had a hearing loss that needed that, great. Everybody else's were in the drawer. Okay. They would last about 6 weeks, and they would put it in the drawer and never look at it again. And they were expensive, and so they said, hearing aids, they don't work. They do work.
Let's begin with your typical client that comes in.
Well, there's the kind that have just outgrown their hearing system, or that it's broken. We do a lot of repair work in our offices. There are people who have had an accident or injury. There are people who've moved in from other areas of the country, and so they need somebody who they can trust and rely on to help them to hear better.
Is it men and women that come? And is there more women that come in than men?
You know, we used to think that vanity or the ability not to hear was gender specific, but it's not. It's both.
Do men put it off more than women?
Women are just as bad about it.
Really?
Yeah, they are. They put off things. They'll call it something different, but it's the same thing.
You know, one of the points you made, especially for people out there that are watching, they currently have a hearing aid, it's just not working as well as it used to.
Yes.
You said that they should probably go to a dispenser or an audiologist that does both repair and also carries multi-line of hearing aids.
Yes.
Tell me why.
There's a couple of reasons. One of which is you have to know what you're doing inside the hearing aid to get it to do what it needs to do in a patient's ear.
Okay.
And with the new technology and all the computers and stuff, that's one of the problems with a lot of the dispensers is they've never made the switch to the computer world. And so they can't make the hearing aids do what they want. The other thing is, a lot of times it's simple earwax. You know, you don't want to have to buy a new set of hearing aids because somebody wasn't smart enough to pull some earwax out of a hearing aid. and we check all those things first.
Okay.
And so you have both the hardware end of it and the software end of it together, and we're one of very few people who do both.
Okay, let's talk about then that how to make a hearing aid right. Okay, so somebody's watching this, they have an older hearing aid. Take me through the process, because you say it takes sometimes 6 weeks, or it is 6 weeks, in order to really get this thing going right.
Well, it's not that the hearing aid's not going right. It's that a person has a set of hearing. They have a small piece in their ear called a cochlea. It sits back behind the ear, and it is little nerve endings in there. Well, those nerve endings, they can wear out. Okay, they change, bad things happen. And so what we need to do is get the hearing aid and the ear working together so that the brain can get good information. That takes time. And so what we do in a normal situation is somebody comes in and says they're not hearing good. We'll take the hearing aid, take it back to the lab and do the magic in the lab to make it function properly. Then we'll take the person, make sure that their ear is clean, that there's no earwax or medical issues going on, because we'll refer to the ear, nose, and throat doctor for that. Then we'll go ahead and do a hearing test. Well, when we do a hearing test, what we do is we find out where you can barely hear beeping noises. And we find out how well you're hearing words and when you're hearing words, what kind of volume we need, what kind of pitch we need to get you to where you can hear your best. And then using that information, that's how we build hearing aids.
Now, what are you doing, by the way, that's different than, I guess, the standard of care everywhere? I mean, is there anything as far as technology that you have that not everyone has?
Yeah, it's called real ear measurement. What it does is we actually put microphones on the ear. After the hearing aid's good, we've got what their hearing loss is, then we can see in real time with their spouse or other loved one that they can't hear, if they can hear using that hearing aid.
Really? So it's a try-in a way. Is that right? Am I
It is, but
understanding
we
it
can
correctly?
actually even do that with old hearing aids and make sure that what you've got is not working adequately or that we can't get it to work adequately before we move on to new instruments. And then with new instruments, using the software, we can actually in real time watch on the machine and have the spouse talking, and we can get that voice up into that voice range where they can hear, and I can see on the machine, and I can also watch the face. The face does wonderful, happy things when all of a sudden they can hear that spouse and when they can
You say
connect
that
again.
within 15 minutes, their sense of humor comes back.
Absolutely.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
Neatest thing in the world. We have all the electronic equipment and all the scientific stuff, and I am nationally board certified and have licenses and everything. But the real exciting thing with hearing help is getting somebody from that withdrawn personality to seeing their eyes light up and their back straighten up and they start laughing at the jokes and they'll start telling jokes because now they don't have to control everything around them. They feel that they can be a part of what's going on again, and that's magic.
Is that right? Okay, so people that have a severe hearing loss, they dominate conversations, you say.
Absolutely. And on the phone, if you can't get a word in edgewise, they need to come in and see me.
Really?
It's the funniest thing. They don't feel, patients tell me that they don't feel like they can just participate anymore because they're not sure what you said. They got part of it, but they didn't get all of it.
Do they know themselves that this is going on?
Usually it's you that have the problem to them. They say, I hear just fine. If everybody's talked like you do, I'd be great. I said, well, I'm not coming home with you because I'm way more expensive than a new pair of hearing aids.
Is that right?
Yes. And then we hook them up with hearing aids and they go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be hearing like. They can hear the crickets, the birds, their spouse.
Yeah, but isn't it distracting
kids.
though? You know, I mean, if you hear that the problem with hearing aids, especially the new ones, you go into a restaurant, the clanking, silverware, the noises can be a bit unbearable.
That used to be absolutely the case. What we do now is we have layers and layers of information that we can manage using the hearing aid. So we can actually take soft sounds and move them up while taking loud and annoying and distracting sounds and move them down at the same time by individual piece.
Based on what? Their lifestyle? So if they come in and they say, I eat out a lot or whatever.
Yes. Lifestyle, age, dexterity issues. We have remote controls. We have hearing aids that are completely automatic that will switch automatically in between several different programs and when you use the telephone. So if you go onto the telephone, it will automatically switch into a
You don't have to
different
press
mode.
a button.
No buttons,
Interesting.
no anything.
Now, by the way, I mean, you're in this industry. What do you want, especially people out there that they've had their hearing aid for 3 to 5 years, 6 years? What don't they know that you hear all the time on consults?
They will be amazed at how much more clear and comfortable life can be. Computers have changed, hearing aids have changed. You've got the computing power inside a little tiny hearing aid that slides deep in your canal that you do on a full-on laptop or a desktop computer, and it's only doing one thing. It's only making sounds more comfortable and more clear.
And they don't know that.
They have no idea. All they know that they see in the paper that there's commercials and ads that say, come in, I can save you $200. And the real answer is $200 on what?
Okay. You carry just about, I mean, you carry a lot of brands, a couple of brands?
I carry a lot of brands. Each different manufacturer has a different kind of sound that they think is right. Last week,
Give me an example. Yeah.
I had a patient who has a problem because he says the voices sound tinny and sharp and unnatural. Well, he needs tinny and sharp and unnatural, according to this manufacturer. But this one over here, I actually took 3 different hearing aids, set them up exactly the same, and then I listened to them. I'm an old musician.
Okay.
And you know what? They didn't sound alike at all. They had very different kind of sounds. And so I took him out of this manufacturer, and we moved him to another one, and immediately he said, oh, that feels better. That's what it's supposed to sound like.
Do you do that with them?
We do.
On the consult?
On the console.
So I understand this again. So on the consult, they go in, they could actually do a try-in. They get to hear how they're going to, how it sounds. How do you know if they're not just saying, yeah, this is great? Because if you couldn't hear before, any improvement's going to be better. How do you know you're maximizing the way they hear? Do you have any?
Yes.
Maybe this.
That's actually
really?
a very good question.
Okay.
Randy. And the reason it is because that's absolutely true. There's, it's anything I have to offer them is going to be better than where they've been. And so what we'll do is, with my experience, and I work with the engineers involved in the different companies, not the salespeople, we can go ahead and take the best that each of those companies has to offer, and then based on lifestyle and activity levels and what they're doing, we can go ahead and take and put them in the right kind of system. Now what we do after that is we do a series of follow-up visits where of course we'll ask them how they're doing, and if they say great, I'll say based on what? Because what I want to know is how does it feel? How is it working in their life? How does their spouse feel about it? Because the spouse will have a very different view than they will.
Interesting.
And so what we'll do is from that point, then we'll move forward and we'll take them down the path to better hearing. It's a long process. It can take up to 6 weeks. And if we find during the process that they've kind of plateaued before they should have, we may move them into a different kind of instrument.
Your center, you said, you know, Randy, I want people to know it's not like a salesy situation. Okay. Now, do you meet with the clients that come in?
I do.
Or your son?
Well, we start with wherever I happen to not be. I have licensed people in each of the offices.
Okay.
And so if I'm in San Diego at my San Diego office, then I have other licensed people up in Las Vegas. Or if I'm in the Encinitas office or the other, I have licensed people for each of my offices. And then what I do, because of my 24 years of experience, there are things that I have seen that they haven't. And so first of all, we have telephones. We can talk, and I'll talk them through the process of getting where that patient wants to be. And then I will see individual patients based on their need and want. And we can do all kinds of things that would have been considered magic 2 years ago.
Really? But one of the things that I want to ask you about is the perception that the technology does all the work, that the hearing aid does all the work. I mean, how much are you involved? How much is this driven by the person that's making it right, fitting it to the patient?
Randy, that's a very astute question. We actually have discussions in the professional field about, are hearing aids commodities? Are they just something you can buy at a Costco or
yeah, good question.
Any of those kind of a Walmart or whatever, or over the internet, or do I need somebody who is my advocate? Do I need somebody to walk me through the process and make sure that I'm getting what I should get? And I'm firmly in the camp of, you need an expert.
But does it cost more to deal with an expert?
It does not. And that's the amazing thing to me.
So Costco, I mean, you can compete with these people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have hearing aids from $750 on up. And
so people don't know this then?
Oh, no, they don't. They think that because it has a large discount name attached to it, that somehow they're going to get a better price. They don't. And they won't get a better product either.
A lot of people, you say, their hearing aids are in their drawers
Yes.
and not in their ears. Why?
Well, older technology, what would happen is people would hear really good for a little while, and then they wouldn't hear so well. And they would go back to whoever they bought their hearing aids from.
How soon would they not hear so well?
6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay.
And that person would say, well, you're past your 30-day trial, good luck. And they'd basically throw them out of the office. That is absurd. What
Okay.
you want to do,
When you say that, I mean, it probably didn't quite happen just like that.
Oh, my
But without
patience.
spending a lot more money, let's say that. How about that? Is that fair? Without spending more money, they couldn't help them. Is that fair to say?
okay,
Okay.
maybe.
All right. Well, this
I
is
hear
okay.
a lot of stories from
You hear-
patients.
All right.
Anyway, what we can do now, though, is we can go ahead and plug them back into the computer and then upgrade their hearing.
Oh, really?
It helps a lot. Because what happens is the brain is changing, it's growing, it's developing, even at an advanced age. We used to think that past the age of 5, and this is where the psychology comes in, because all the physiology, all the medical things that happen, we used to think they worked one way and they really don't, because we've learned through, for example, stroke therapy. They get better. The brain is growing and learning.
Well, this is interesting. You know, I always learn new things on the show, and I feel like I did have some kind of a learning experience right this second. So you're saying, okay, so 6 weeks later, because now the brain is adjusting to the hearing aid.
Correct.
It now may need an adjustment again.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
And over time.
Interesting.
Over the years, you can take the new instruments and teach them pretty much anything you want them to do.
So if you go
To a
by
point.
just price, and by the way, people tuning in, you know, this is a real interview. You know, this part is not planned. I'm not endorsing you anyway, but I want to make sure I have this right. So when you chase price and you say your prices are about the same as everybody, right? Okay. That when you 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks later, when you need some
Adjustment.
customer service adjustment,
Yeah.
you may be charged for that quite a bit
Absolutely.
when you chase. But with you, I mean, what's the difference?
Well, we don't charge them for it. We adopt them into the family. It's a family business.
You
we
say
adopt
that.
them right in. And I
I mean,
have
do you really
people-
feel that way, though?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's what makes it exciting for me. I get to come into work every day and I get to see people whose lives are changed by what
You
we
like
do.
this. You like
it's
this.
It's fun.
You know how I knew you like this? Because when I interview doctors on the telephone, about 1 out of 50, I can't get them to get off the topic. We were on the phone. It's like I was thinking, this guy could talk about hearing aids for hours on end, 24 hours a day. I mean, you like this stuff. That's why I guess your kids are doing it.
I really love it.
Did you push your kids into doing it?
Absolutely not. My theory is go out and find the world and find your place in it. And if you're good at something, the world will find a way to your doorstop. And that's what happened with hearing aids with me. I found that I'm good at it. I can learn to understand what people are saying, because we tend to deal on the it feels like and I wish I could level. And then I have to turn that into electronics. And I have to know when I can do certain things with certain kinds of instruments.
So you know how to push.
And when it's time to push them into the next thing.
Okay, but you know how to get the most out of a hearing aid. Is that real? Okay, this segment is
Absolutely.
really about people that aren't getting the most out of their hearing aids.
Correct. You come to me with whatever you've got, we'll maximize what you've got. There are some people, especially in this kind of an economy, that cannot afford to get new instruments. Okay. Well, I have the ability in my offices to take that instrument and make it do things that it never had an idea
But you
to
can
do
repair.
before.
I mean, you have a repair center both in
Repair,
San Diego, Las Vegas.
Modification.
And nobody else is doing it in Las Vegas as far as repair.
Right.
None of these dispensers. Or in San Diego. Is
Or
that
in
correct?
San Diego. Oh.
Okay. Why isn't everybody doing it, though? I mean, logically.
It's hard. It's hard.
There's not a lot of money in it? Is that why?
Well, you know, you don't.
Repair?
I charge $125 to do a repair. You're not going to be eating steaks if that's what you're doing. But what we do is it's part of the entire process.
Interesting.
And
okay.
so it's a low-cost entry for people to see who we are and what we are. Plus, if that's all they needed, they're happy. And they're done and they can get on with their lives. And if not, then we move on to other things if necessary.
Okay, let's talk about, for the sake of time here, the people that are watching this, and it's usually maybe the spouse is watching this and they're going, that is my partner, or whatever. And they're in denial, as you say. And I have a family member like this, we've talked about this. He doesn't believe his hearing is as bad as it is. So what's your advice to them?
Well, I
to
tell
get
you,
them to come in?
The real problem is not to make them feel bad about it, because they already feel bad. They feel bad that they can't communicate well. They know that.
Okay. They
That's
tell you
not
this
the
on the
issue.
consults.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The spouse, sometimes they're just standing there pushing, and I have to send them into the other room. I like to have the spouse there, but some of them have been so frustrated because their spouse can't hear the rest of the story. They get all the way down to the end, and then there's this punchline, and he says,
missed it.
What? Huh? It's terrible. And they know that they're in trouble. They just don't know how bad it is. It's called insidious onset. It just slowly happens.
Slowly. So people that are watching, people if you're told you can't hear me, they should go in and get a consult, right?
Absolutely, and it's free.
It's free. Free
There's no
consultation.
cost for a consultation. We'll take you through and see what your hearing is like today. And then if it's time to do something, we'll tell you that, and we'll let you hear what it should be like. You choose.
You know, one of the things you told me when we talked on the phone, you said, I said, if we had to say today's topic is, and you said, I really wish I could say, giving people their relationships back, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. Tell me about that.
I absolutely feel like what I do is I don't sell hearing aids. We don't sell anything. What we're doing is we're taking people's lives, we're taking damaged ears, and we're processing information in a way that they can now communicate easier. Relationships are the first thing to suffer. Your poor spouse has been acting as the hearing aid. And so,
oh boy, okay.
What's happened is they're enabling in the current psychological terms. But instead of doing that, if you really want your spouse to come and be taken care of, find them the right place to come.
Okay.
Make them an appointment and say, hey, honey, guess what we're going to do today?
What's the fear then? What's the fear? Is the fear being pushed like a timeshare sale or something? Like,
well, you know, sometimes
to me,
that's it.
that would be my...
My first year in the business, I worked for a large company that has a name that's still in the business.
Everybody knows that name. I know.
Everybody knows that name, and I'm not going to say it, but you know what? It's a sales organization, and the reason I left that organization is the person who owned it, he got up in front of a big meeting of all his rising stars and said, these dang things are made for selling, not for wearing. And I said, not in my office.
Is that
not.
right?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
so what we do is we're going to work with you to find you what you need. And sometimes we may go through three sets of hearing aids before we find the right one to interact with your residual hearing and your brain to function like you want it to. And what's going to happen is you're going to sit up straighter, you're going to get a big grin on your face, and you're going to say, wow.
It sounds like an exaggeration, though.
Oh.
You fit them with hearing aids and they're sitting up straighter. You say that they laugh after about 15 minutes.
They change. They've been starving to death.
So they didn't know what they were missing.
They had no
There's
idea.
probably somebody watching this with the TV really loud, and they
Yes.
don't know what they're missing. Is that
They
that
don't
your
realize
belief?
it. Absolutely. When the little animals start running, you know your TV's too loud. Okay?
Okay. Do they tell you this?
They absolutely do.
Okay.
The spouse or the children will come in and say, I can't stand it anymore, please fix him. And he's going, what? I didn't know it was that bad. And then we'll hook him up and we'll let him go outside where it's noisy, because we're going to check to make sure that the traffic noises aren't too loud. We're going to check to make sure that they can understand and communicate, even with their back turned, even with noises going on. It's a revelation to people. Such a pleasure.
Now we are out of time, but you know, I'm hearing this, and I could definitely appreciate that you like what you do and this and that. But company-wide, within your centers, because I know it's family run, oftentimes. That do you have a philosophy, like a behind the scenes? This is the way we treat patients. This is how we offer hearing instruments.
We do. We treat them like their family. I know that sounds cliche, but
yeah.
You know what? The reason that I take, and I have my son in one office down here, I've taken people who have been a long time in the hearing aid business, and I've had ones that I've trained from scratch. The ones that I've trained from scratch do much better, because
Why?
we treat everybody just like I fit my mother with hearing aids. So if I look at my son and say, I want you to give them your best opinion first, because that's what we would do with our family.
Okay, good, good.
And then we give them options. There's this much and there's this much.
Like
there's
the $750
range,
hearing aid?
all the way up to the $3,500 hearing aid. They don't act the same, but if you have to eat beans for the rest of your life, you're probably not going to have too much of a life anyway. So there's compromises and all kinds
Or
of
fix
things
the
in
current hearing aid they have.
life. Or fix the current hearing aid. Whatever's their best option. And then they've already been adopted, and we've adopted each other. We become friends. They come in when they're ready for new stuff. We say, great, then let's take care of it in the best way.
And you offer all the new technology?
Absolutely. In fact, because we build hearing aids as well as sell what other people have, we actually have upstreamed all the manufacturers and get the hearing aid chips where they get them. And so we actually have instruments that are a year ahead of the curve.
Really?
That we can build them custom. So, for example, if I have a young man that I built hearing aids that are literally this long and they're completely in the canal. Well, that's about how long your ear is. Your ear canal is 2 cubic centimeters of volume.
Yeah.
He's very, very hard of hearing, but because he's 25 years old, he doesn't want to wear big, ugly hearing aids. And so what we've done is we have built him hearing instruments, custom instruments that end right down by his eardrum. And so what happens is, within the hearing aid, I have a way of testing him, and he's hearing better than he would if we had a big, huge hearing aid on him. But he's happy, and he can hear well.
Because I asked you that. I said, but for severe hearing loss, you have to have the big hearing aids.
Yeah, and you don't anymore.
You say not anymore.
Not anymore.
Interesting.
Based on our technology now, we can do all kinds of things.
And wearing something on your ear now is fashion. I mean, people are walking around with their Bluetooth, as you say. That's a good point.
Yeah, and the hearing aids are much, much smaller than that. And what we can do is, instead of them having to wear a Bluetooth, we can actually make their hearing aid into a Bluetooth.
Okay.
So they can be hands-free while they're driving, or anything else. They can hear out of both ears, and they can go ahead and hear the people around them as well. It's all in how you set up the instruments.
Okay, good, good. We're out of time. I want to thank you for coming on the show. Very interesting. Good
My
stuff.
pleasure.
Good stuff. All of this is on your website. You have a great website, by the way, and we'll have you back.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching The Wellness Hour, the leader in medical news and information. I'm Randy Alvarez. If you would like to see this interview again from the beginning, you can go to our website at wellnesshour.com and just put in the search hearing aid, hearing loss, or Walter Kelly. If you have a friend or a loved one that needs to hear this interview, tell them to go to the website or contact. I'm sure we can put this on your website as well.
Yes.
For now, I wish you good health.
Thanks for watching The Wellness Hour, the leader in medical news with your host, Randy Alvarez, the authority on health issues.